The fever around Light No Fire's reveal has reached a critical high. And as a player of No Man's Sky since day one, I have some thoughts around my experience around playing No Man's Sky that long, and some general wishes that I hope they've learned some lessons from 8 years of development around No Man's Sky and packed those into Light No Fire. And in this video, I want to talk about those things crucial to Light No Fire's success. Find those things and more right here in the LZ. My fellow travelers, you have entered the LZ and all you have found is Light No Fire ads. And before we get into today's discussion, I would like to hear from you in the comment section below. What do you expect from Light No Fire, especially if you're a No Man's Sky player? What are some things in No Man's Sky that does not happen that you wish it did that Light No Fire would greatly benefit from? Always love to hear from you. But in today's video, I have 5 primary things that I feel Light No Fire needs to be successful based on things that did not happen or did not happen that well in No Man's Sky. Let's just dive right in. Number 1, Light No Fire needs a primary goal. And when I say primary goal, I mean goal. Of course, the overall pitch of No Man's Fire, I don't know why I said that accidentally, but it works, is to go exploring, and apparently multiplayer is a big focus of that. And No Man's Sky had a primary goal, at least in its marketing cycle, and still to this day, the sort of nebulous goal, I might say, is that you reach the center of the galaxy. Spoiler alert, there is nothing at the center of the galaxy other than you have reached the center of the galaxy. And of course, upon engaging the center of the galaxy, you are just thrown to another galaxy unceremoniously. There's literally nothing. Nothing story-wise, nothing engaging, nothing helpful, no ultimate powers or loot or anything like that. Light No Fire needs a primary goal, whether it be a story goal or some ultimate journey milestone that you reach, something that's meaningful. Because while No Man's Sky and Light No Fire have the primary objective, or at least overall pitch, is that you just go and do things by yourself or with friends. It's likely meant to be one of those emergent games like Minecraft, but even Minecraft has an ultimate goal, at least from my opinion, would be to get to the Ender region and defeat the Ender Dragon. It's pretty significant. Not necessary, but it's pretty cool. Secondly, what I'd like to see from Light No Fire that No Man's Sky didn't do particularly well was meaningful points of interest. Now, granted, over the years, these increased a little bit with each subsequent new update. But at its core, when you happen upon something in No Man's Sky, it's largely unremarkable. Here's this station on a planet with 1 or 2 people in it. Here's a trading post. Here's an abandoned small building. Light No Fire deserves meaningful points of interest like towns and cities and marketplaces and even larger places that people can discover and tell other players about that will want to make other players journey there. And I would go as far as to say places that only exist one time, like giant massive waterfalls, large monuments, or singular communities. Something that you can only find in one spot and nowhere else. On one Earth-sized planet, that would be pretty remarkable. People would want to set out to go there to see it. But that brings me to number 3, when we're talking meaningful points of interest, something that at least until halfway through No Man's Sky's development cycle didn't exist, and that's dungeons. Now, to be fair, one of the greatest updates that No Man's Sky ever got was the Desolation update, which added derelict destroyed freighters that you can land on and explore. And they were filled with all manner of enemies or treasures. And these are things that you could do with your friends too. But that concept was never carried over to PlanetSide. In Light No Fire, I imagine this idea that you and your friends are exploring and you happen upon some deep ancient dungeon that you can raid for loot, and there's challenging enemies and things like that. Light No Fire screams for the need for that kind of feature. Hello Games absolutely possess the skill and the tech to make procedurally generated dungeons happen, and wouldn't that be great to see them fully flesh out? But point number 4 is a pretty big one, and something that I myself and a lot of my fellow creators in the No Man's Sky creator sphere have talked about for many years now. Something that No Man's Sky lacked very much was an engaging, addictive gameplay loop. In fairness to Hello Games, they have added quite a lot to No Man's Sky gameplays-wise. When you're asking the question, what do you do in No Man's Sky? Well, Hello Games has answered it over and over. But one thing they never quite answered to was an addictive gameplay loop. Something that would keep you coming back. Something that was fun and engaging. A lot of the times, especially with a new update for No Man's Sky, players would come back, play, maybe for a day or two, and then put it back and just not come back until the next update drops. Light No Fire absolutely demands an addictive gameplay loop, and from what I'm seeing from the concepts of combat and exploration, one world to explore, this is absolutely possible. I want to have the feeling that I cannot wait to pick up the controller again. I want the game to resonate with me, where I can't wait to log off from work that day, come home, and play Light No Fire again. No Man's Sky has a big, painful lack of that, unfortunately. The game is an absolutely great experience, but it doesn't exactly carry the need to have me draw back to it time and time again. Which brings me to my final point, and something that I think would have greatly increased the loop for No Man's Sky when it came to gameplay, which Light No Fire is seemingly putting a heavy emphasis on, and that's meaningful multiplayer. And what do we mean by that? Well, No Man's Sky has multiplayer technically. It's there. You can see other players, you can venture with them, you can exist with other players. The expeditions that typically launch a few times a year sort of just puts you on a world with other players who are playing the same thing that you are, but really, that's where the experience starts and stops. You see, you're there just existing with other players, doing the same thing that you would be doing otherwise by yourself. Actually, as a matter of fact, I typically turn multiplayer off in those scenarios because I find myself having more problems with multiplayer turned on. There's not a lot of resources popping up for some reason. I find myself lagging, or there's performance issues. It can be a little problematic. And sometimes there's just broken multiplayer outright that can take Hello Games days or even weeks to address. And now they're leaning pretty hard into a multiplayer function for Light No Fire. But I have an overall point here in that I'm hoping that Hello Games gives me an incentive to play with other people. Sure, I can load into a game of Call of Duty all by myself and be put with random teammates who are absolutely terrible, who don't communicate, who don't participate, who don't help the overall team experience, but we all know that your Call of Duty experience is much better when you're playing with friends who are reliable, who discuss strategy and communicate with you in real time. I'm not saying that Light No Fire has to be Call of Duty so much as that it should follow that idea that I want a reason to play with other people. Otherwise, I'm just going to do what I already do in No Man's Sky and venture off by myself doing whatever I want because I have no reason to do it with other people. Even with the multiplayer missions that you get at the Nexus in No Man's Sky, they're just like, hey, go do this thing that you can already do by yourself with no extra incentive, no increased difficulty, very little in shared rewards. You're just simply experiencing the No Man's Sky experience as it is with just other people with you. It just isn't that deep, and I'm really hoping that Light No Fire changes that aspect. Give me a reason to play with other players, reward me for doing that, incentivize me going with other people, and some of those previous points that I made around dungeons and meaningful points of interest and addictive loops and primary goals. Sure, I could do those things with other people, but what's the incentive? What rewards do I get? Does it make it more challenging, or does it make it more fun that I'm tackling that challenging thing with another player? With all that said, my friends, what did you think? Was this useful to your information for Light No Fire and No Man's Sky? Again, love to hear from you in the comments about your thoughts on the points that I made, or add some points for what you think should be in Light No Fire as well. If this was helpful to your experience as well, would enjoy a like. Thanks so much. I appreciate that. And I'll see you in the next one.